Hello and welcome to another edition of Pulp Picks. My name is Patrick.
I'm Fritz.
And we're here to give you this week's reading recommendations on a lighter week than last week, but,
Still a good week.
Yeah, it's not what it's lacking in volume. It is definitely not lacking in quality. So hopefully you're recovered from all the tricks and treats last night and ready to give us your review on...
So my pick today is Detective Comics 1076. I have been picking this series a lot for a while now, with good reason. Ram V's run has just been spectacular, and here we've got the kind of start of it's kind of like an arc within an arc kind of thing. Like this, I don't know, he's been doing it in these little stages, and this is kind of the next stage. And this arc is called Outlaw. Batman has been captured by the Ograms, the kind of overarching villains of this whole thing. And basically they've kind of, for lack of a better term, hypnotized Gotham into wanting to kill him. Yeah. So they're sort of just going string him up in the gallows in a couple days. Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's up to Catwoman to try and figure out a way to free him. And one of the fun things with that is they do address, also this week out, is the end of the Gotham War storyline between the Batman and Catwoman title. So that kind of gets brought up in here without really spoiling any of that. So you don't have to worry. Definitely check both out. But I don't know, it's fun seeing their dynamic where it's just Selena's just things aren't the best between us right now, but I can't just let this happen to the guy.
Right.
Yeah. And it's fun touching base with a lot of characters that have been popping up throughout this run. You get Gordon, you get Montoya, get Azrael's back in town. And it's fun touching base with all these people, seeing how they react to all the weird stuff that's been going on in Gotham recently. And one of the cool things, I hadn't noticed this because I didn't really have this in the solicits at all. So that's just the first story in here. There's 4 different things going on in this issue. So there's that. Dan Watters has 2 backup stories. One about Montoya doing some stuff as the Question, kind of leaning more into that side of her life, which hopefully is a thing going forward because I love her as the Question. She's great in it. They do this whole. I just love where every time she speaks aloud, it's always as a question to but not in a way that feels weird. Just in these contexts, she would just be asking questions of these people, that. It's fun. Then after that, he's got an Azrael story, which is kind of building off of his previous miniseries he did. Just some real gorgeous art there from. Oh God, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name now. Just a second. Did Wonder Woman with Liam Sharp. Did Wonder Woman with Greg Rucka a couple years back for Rebirth. Really gorgeous stuff here. And then the final story is Ram V is back, and he does the art for it. It's just 2 pages, but it's really gorgeous. Reintroduces a character that I don't think we've seen in a while, and probably doesn't mean anything good for Batman.
Sure.
Yeah, he's going to be in a lot of hurt coming up here for sure. But no, all 4 stories are great. The art, I shout out Liam Sharp in particular, but the art on all of them is gorgeous. I am really excited for this arc. This whole run's been good, but I don't know. I love anytime stories, and Ram V seems to like this idea we're delves into thought warfare, how you can convince people of what's good or bad, stuff like that. I don't know. I always enjoy that kind of stuff, and it's been really fun in this run. And looks like it's going to be. There's definitely some cracks starting to show in the Ogram's plan, some very unexpected cracks. So I'm curious to see where they go with that too. But no, just top to bottom, great issue. Also, kind of a solid jump. Even if you haven't been reading, it kind of works well enough as a jumping on point. It covers basically everything you need to know about what's been happening, all the kind of major developments. So I don't know. Read if you've been reading or not. Definitely check it out. It's just gorgeous and wonderful, and I love it.
Very cool. Well, I went with Scott Snyder's new book called Canary. This is a Western. But, so the basic I picked it up because it's Scott Snyder, and there's just not much for Westerns, and let's be honest, it would be hard to tell a good Western story without a lot of the tropes of the time not aging well. So the gist is that there is a U.S. Marshal sent to investigate a very bizarre murder where somebody who, by all reports, is seemingly normal just decides to slit somebody's throat in front of a large group of people. So in the process of investigating that, and we find out a little bit later that there are a great number of other murders that are kind of happening with similar situations, where it's somebody who nobody would have ever suspected, just for very little reason kills, in most of the other cases, a bunch of people. So then the trail leads this U.S. Marshal to a mine at which a number of years earlier he had a confrontation with a mass killer, somebody who was going around the countryside of the frontier, murdering lots of people, like blowing up trains and doing stuff like that. So there are some horror elements to this, and so the art is gorgeous too.
I think it was like Dan Panosian?
Panosian, or however you say it, who I know that I've seen on a bunch of stuff, but if you're going to do a Western, you've got to be able to do, stoic profiles.
There's got to be like some grit to it.
And it's super. Did you flip through it at all?
I did, yeah.
So it definitely has that grittiness and lots of handlebar mustaches.
The coloring on here looks great too. Yeah,
you got to be able to draw a horse and a smoke wagon and all that kind of stuff to be able to, really pull it off. The main character, who, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's famous for a shootout that he had with this mass murderer a number of years ago, and it's Israel something or other. But he's got a real Solomon Kane kind of vibe. So he's got this, mask that he pulls up, and it's got an upside down coffin with an upside down, with a cross on it, so the cross is upside down too. And kind of, he means business when he pulls it up, kind of thing. But he's got kind of the Solomon Kane looking kind of hat, and I don't know. He's got an interesting vibe. So there's kind of some interesting elements here. But he's gonna meet up with a geologist to try to figure out if the idea is that there's something in the water coming out of the mine that then is going to these other communities and possibly causing people to go crazy. So this geologist is going to help him. But we get in a flashback scene to see the confrontation between this guy and the marshal that made the marshal famous, and it's twisted in all the great Scott Snyder kind of ways. So
I like that. One of the things I always love about his stuff, particularly like his horror stuff, is a lot of times how it's rooted in like some kind of like past incident for a character. Like there's he had I'm blanking on the name of it, but he had a series that came out just like last week where it's about like the FBI trying to track down the serial killer, and one of the guys like doing it is like a former victim of them.
Oh,
and like I don't know. And that's the thing. Like it's even when it's like kind of like a similar thing of just like, oh, there's like a past encounter with like this like bad guy or whatever. Like it's never like quite the same. Like each time it's got like a different vibe. There's different like repercussions of how it like affects the character. So like he's visiting, like it's not that like he's just pulling from the same well every time. Like it feels different every time when he does it.
Yeah, and we've only scratched the surface, right? You can tell by the way that the little bits of the breadcrumb trail that he's leaving with this main character's history. There's so much more to explore as to what's turned him into. At the beginning, the sheriff that he's working with to investigate the first crime says, "You're not such a jerk." Not in quite those terms in the dime books. And the guy's like, "Yep, you're right. That's because they're fiction." And so he's really pretty gruff and rubs people the wrong way, and there's a reason for that. And there's stuff alluded to as to what's causing that. The horror aspect of it, and I'm not quite sure if it's these people are going insane and there's something in the water that they're drinking, or if there's, some sort of demonic presence or something that's actually happening. I'm guessing the latter because that's, it's a comic book. We're probably going to go that way. But it's disturbing how it's written and, unnerving. And that makes for a great story. So I highly recommend it. It's a big book. It's pretty thick and it's dense and there's a lot to it. But it's gorgeous and the storytelling is great and it's off to a great start. So anyway. A book that got off to a great start and has made the list a number of times and is coming to the conclusion of one of the major story arcs.
Yep. It's Doctor Strange number 9. Here we've had, for the last couple issues, it's been him versus...
the General.
Yeah, the General. Basically, there was, I think it was a story back in the 80s or 90s where he got sent to fight in this other dimensional war for a bit and came back but didn't really remember any of it.
Sure.
It was something like that. But part of what happened that this is kind of retconned is that while he was there, he kind of went crazy and wanted to kill a bunch of stuff, and so the Vishanti were just well, no, and just trap that part of him in a different dimension. But when he died a couple years back, it basically broke that and allowed the General to get out, and now it's just I'm going back to war. You can't stop me. Right.
Yeah. Essentially, the Vishanti called a truce with. I'm not remembering who was it. It wasn't the Tribune. No, it was.
Let's see.
I can't remember. But anyway,
Trinity of Ashes.
The Trinity. That's what it was. Yes. So they call a truce, and the General is unhappy with that because he feels he's been fighting for 1,000 years or whatever.
It was a couple thousand years.
Yeah, and he's finally now got the opportunity to be able to win this war, and he's going to do it. And that was a number of issues ago that we learned about that. So now he's coming after Strange, and he tried making a partnership with Clea, and we've got all this stuff happening.
There's bargains made with powers that probably shouldn't have been made, but it's too late now. There's Mysterium daggers, which if you know anything about Mysterium for the X-Men books, negates magic, so obviously not a great thing to have around a bunch of magic users.
Right, yeah.
There's the crazy Dr. Z.
Yeah.
Which the last page of this issue is that perfect combination of epic but also kind of hilarious.
Yeah, he gets this cool psychedelic kind of angle to him. That's very cool. Who is the guy that I would tune in, turn off, drop out? Whatever.
Oh God, I know who you're talking about.
That's kind of who he reminds me of. That dude from the '60s.
We'll flash it across the screen or something.
Yeah. But anyway, he's kind of got a him vibe, except he's got more hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, so. I'll be honest. The art on this book it's not my favorite. I don't dislike it. Strange's eyes are kind of dead. I don't know. They kind of creep me out a little.
I mean, to be fair, it makes sense in this issue for them to be kind of that way.
It works pretty darn well in this issue. But there are panels in every single issue where I just go, "Wow, this is really cool." And there's after Clea does the big thing that she does, that panel where it's the kind of reveal. So cool.
Pascal Ferry's, his work is usually some of my favorite, and I've always been sad that he's not on more Western books, because I think he mostly does a lot of European stuff. But anytime he does get to do a regular title, it's always a joy, and I've just been loving him on this. He does the weird other dimensional magic stuff so well. Yeah,
the General definitely has a very cool look. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and we're now building towards the climactic end, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it was a fun little. It was an action-packed issue with a lot of good stuff going on here. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Well, like we said, there are a bunch of new books. The Supergirl special I know was on both of our lists this week, and we enjoyed that.
The new kind of primer for the new Ultimate Universe that Marvel's doing is out.
Yes, that's right.
It's really good. It also, I did not know this, just a little tip for you guys, it's got a little preview of one of the new titles in the back of it. So if you're looking forward to that, definitely check that out.
Yeah, the Spider-Man book has me so interested. I hate the fact that I'm interested in it, but it does. Avengers, again, another that one ends up on our list very frequently.
Yep.
Also an opportunity to be able to pick up a few books that you may have missed. We've got some second printings of Predator, Wolverine, and Transformers #1, which has been super hot. And then we also just got copies of Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Those are first prints. We were able to get a restock on those. And also Justice League versus Kong versus Godzilla. We were able to get some additional first prints of those. So if you haven't been able to pick those up, we've got them in stock. Just come on in and ask for them. So, well, it was another great week. And we'll be back next week with even more because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And like we said last week, it's definitely getting to be reading weather. So throw a log on the fire and curl up on the couch with a great comic book or 10, and you'll be all set. Like, follow, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining. Stop supporting this nonsense, you